Hello everyone, I Gargi Gupta, Faculty of Psychology, welcome you all again to the official YouTube channel of SRN International School. So today in this video, you are going to cover chapter number 5, Therapeutic Approaches of NCERT Grade 12. Now, what are the topics that we are going to cover in this particular video? That is, what is psychotherapy? Its characteristics and goals. What is therapeutic relationship? Its components and properties. So these are going to be the four topics that we are going to cover in our today's video. So let's see what is psychotherapy. So as you can see on your screen, psychotherapy is a voluntary relationship between the one seeking treatment or the client and the one who treats or the therapist. Now, first thing that you have to keep in mind, psychotherapy is a voluntary relationship. That means it needs the consent of the client as well as the therapist. The two people involved in psychotherapy are client and the therapist. The client is the one who is willing to seek the treatment, and the therapist is one who is willing to treat the client. Now, what is the purpose? The purpose of psychotherapy is to help the client to solve the psychological problem being faced by her or him. Not necessarily a psychological disorder. It can be a small stress, or it can be a small negative thoughts or anxiety. Now, what is the aim of psychotherapy? The aim of the psychotherapy is to change the maladaptive behaviors, decrease the sense of personal distress, and help the client to adapt better to his or her environment. What is distress? You all must be thinking. Now, this particular word, distress, is the type of stress which is negative or which is harmful for one's psychological condition. So the psychotherapy aims to decrease that distress, decrease that harmful stress, and help the client to adapt to his environment. Now, the relationship is conducive for building the trust of the client so that problems may be freely discussed. You cannot go to someone and just talk about your problem that way. So the client and the therapist, they both have such a bond, they have such a trust that the client feels very comfortable to discuss his problems with the therapist. Now, let's see what are the characteristics of psychotherapy. So, the first characteristic, there is a systematic applications of principle underlying the different theories of therapy. In the next video, we will be talking about the various therapies that come under psychotherapy. So, they have a systematic application of principles. You cannot go like, let's do this first and then do this next. You have a particular sequence and you have to follow those sequence. Second, only person who have received practical training under expert supervision can practice psychotherapy. You can't go and start doing the psychotherapy. You need a particular training, that practical training. In India, you get that training from RCI, that is the Rehabilitation Council of India. So you get this particular license in India from RCI, which allows you to do the psychotherapy or practice psychotherapy. The situation involves a therapist and a client that we have talked. Two people involved, therapist and the client, who seeks and receives help for his or her emotional problems. So we have talked already about it. The client needs the help for his or her problems. So that's why he is the person who is the focus of attention in the therapeutic process, because the therapist is also working to help him in his emotional problems. The fourth characteristics, the interaction of the therapist and the client results in the consolidation or formation of the therapeutic relationship. This is confidential, interpersonal, and dynamic relationship. They share a very close bond where they trust each other, that the client trusts the therapist that he or she is not going to tell my problems, my perceptions to anyone else, and he is not going to judge me. Exactly. That's why the client feels like, okay, I can share my problem with the therapist. Now, what are the goals of psychotherapy? What does it have for us? So, to reinforce the client's resolve for betterment, lessening emotional pressure. When you are in a group, you all have some or the other emotional pressure from your family, friends. You can take it as a distress or eustress, but the goal of psychotherapy is to lessen that emotional pressure, unfolding the potential for positive growth. Once that emotional pressure will be decreased, you will strive for the positivity. You will move forward for the positive growth. Modifying habits. If the client is having some negative habit, so that particular habit will be modified. For example, an individual is alcoholic. So after psychotherapy, that habit will be modified. Next, changing thinking patterns. For example, an individual thinks a lot negative about his future. So after the psychotherapy, he will start analyzing, is it right to think so negative? Am I really not having anything positive to think about? So that is changing thinking patterns. Increasing self-awareness. This is really very important in our today's life, that we are aware about ourselves, that what do I like, what is my success rate, what am I growing every day, what I have to change in myself, what are my positives, what are my negatives. This is something that we term under self-awareness. Improving interpersonal relations and communication, your bond, your communication with the people around you. Facilitating decision making, you find ease to make the decisions. Becoming aware of one's choices in life, relating to one's social environment in more creative and self-aware manner. Next, let's talk about what is therapeutic relationship. So, the special relationship between the client and the therapist. The relationship between these two people, client and the therapist. This is what we call as therapeutic relationship. The components, now we are going to discuss what are the components of therapeutic relationship. First, contractual nature of the relationship. Two willing individuals. Again, keep in mind, we are talking about the contractual nature of the relationship. The two willing individuals, that is the client and therapist, they both get into a partnership which aims at helping the client, again, helping the client to overcome his or her problem. Second component is the limited duration of the therapy. This particular alliance lasts until the client becomes able to deal with his or her problem and take control of her or his life. Suppose it is possible that I take 2 months to get over a particular problem. Possibly another individual will take 6 months. Possibly another one will take 12 months. So this particular alliance lasts until the client becomes comfortable and is able to overcome his problem. Now, last topic, what are the properties? What are the properties of therapeutic relationship? It is a trusting and confiding relationship. This is one and the most important property of a therapeutic relationship, that it is a very trusting and confiding relationship. The client trusts the therapist a lot, that he or she shares everything related to his personal, social, and cultural life with the therapist. Second, the high level of trust enables the client to burden herself or himself to the therapist and confide her or his psychological and personal problems to the latter. What happens a lot of times when we are burdened with our emotions, we generally go to someone and we tell them our emotions, we feel relaxed. So similarly, the particular client goes to the therapist because his emotional burden is way higher than what emotional burden we experience. That is why he had a need to visit a therapist. So that high level of trust enables the client to unburden himself with those all emotional burden to the therapist and confide his problem to the therapist. So this is what we learned today, therapeutic relationship, its components and properties. Also, we talked about that what is psychotherapy. I hope you liked my video. Thank you. Please like, share and subscribe to our channel for more such informative videos. Namaskar.